Hey, what's up, guys? Quick comic overview, not really a review. Okay, the mid to late '80s and the early '90s were the best time for comics. Okay, the anime, the manga was a huge thing. They were starting to translate them, and this is one of the earliest ones they did. Eclipse International with the Viz imprint. They did a bunch of them. Area 88, which was a fighter pilot combat, mercenary combat. Kamui, it was a ninja. Mai the Psychic Girl, which is a teenage girl with psychic abilities. There was another one too. I think it was a cyborg. I forgot the name of it, but it was hard to find these. I only found these in that comic store, and I missed this one, but I always had heard of it. I was familiar with the creator. Okay, creator is one of those Japanese creators who's he's essentially a Marxist of the time, right? Very left wing, but how can I say that? It kind of appeals. That's like Masaki Kobayashi, the filmmaker, is another example of a guy like that, where I it's very much the whole idea is it's like you can say it's libertarian. I don't know. I mean, I hate saying all that shit now at this point. It's all fucking, it's a mess. The writer was very anti-authoritarian. I guess you could say that is the common thread. And this story was when I read about it. It was interesting. This ninja, he's a young guy raised to be an assassin. He wants to be free, and he's always pursued everywhere he goes. Everyone he tries to meet and have a normal life with is just butchered. And he gets revenge. But eventually, from what I've read, the series culminates where the character literally, not only does he become someone who doesn't want to be with anybody because they're gonna die, but he doesn't trust anybody because he's been betrayed countless times, and of course it takes a toll on his spirit and his soul. Very downbeat, very 70s Japanese, right? Sanpei Shirato, obviously another guy alive during the war, always the war, right? But let's look at the art. Obviously his art was more cartoony in the 60s, which is normal. Then Lone Wolf and Cub comes out and pushes the art, the detail and the cinematic flavor of it, and the use of shading and black and white. The Lone Wolf and Cub set the bar. So this dude kind of adapted his style to compete with that series, which is just grim in its own right. So you just see everything, the Japanese sense of detail. And yes, they had assistants, right? Eventually you got an assistant, so they did help. Fishing, right? You see a lot of Japanese, like Wazatoichi, you see a lot of the Japanese medieval folk life of the regular people, always subjected to the whims of, the feudal overlords and just nature. So, and very, like, it has that also, keep bringing up, that sentimental quality that the Japanese have, that no matter what is going on, no matter what, like, grim thing, war, famine is going on, you always have, like, this. You always have that common person sense of smiling, making a joke, trying to enjoy your life while you work your ass off, and it's, there's a fatalism there, particularly in the Japanese. Of course, aesthetically too, bring up the action scenes. You get like stuff like this, right? The whole idea of the Japanese, and you'll see the Chinese even more so, the sense of action, the speed lines, the sense of motion. My stuff is, my comics aren't great, but I think I do the action scenes probably better than anything else. And it was influenced a lot by manga, and it was influenced a lot by this underrated, literally forgotten company that came out, Jademen Comics, okay, 1988, right? And they had Mike Barron. Remember Mike Barron? He did Badger. He was a big martial arts enthusiast. Now, this is the 80s, right? So everybody's like karate and kung fu and annoying neighbors where I'm at. So, but I'm going to keep going, because they're annoying me. Blood Sword, bro. I had all these comics, man. Blood Sword. Force of Buddha's Palm, where the guy's a blonde Chinese dude with a swastika on his head. Drunken Fist had the best fucking villain. He was such a great villain that he could never be defeated, and then he became an anti-hero and helped the heroes eventually. Oriental Heroes, one of the most violent comics, and I remember seeing it as a kid when I was way younger, in the early 80s, when we finally had some Chinese people come to my neighborhood, which is now like half Chinese. They had come in the late 70s, and they were reading these comics, and I was looking at them, and it was like nothing I had ever seen, right? Yeah. And Bloodsword, let's go over this. I always liked the Chinese art style. It was very detailed. There was a manga influence on it. This is the 70s, but it had its own style. And their sense of motion, I mean, you want to talk about the fight scenes you have. There's a lot of drama in the Japanese stuff. Bro, these things are like fights after fights after fights. And you got this foreign devil. Hey, right? It's kind of cool. Yeah, it's after the war, and this is supposed to be China. Okay, they have the nationalist flag here, and you got these. Look at these. Oh God, I should be offended that my race is being portrayed in this way, but I'm not. You know, it's amazing that I can handle that. Why can't y'all handle that, huh? You know. Yeah, and so and also a lot. I mean, they were jamming a lot of stuff in, but it works. And there's Hero. Right? His name is literally Hero. Right? He beats up the traitor Chinese that helps these foreign devils. Okay, it's always the never-ending thing is traitors, right? And these dudes don't even help him; they laugh at him. Anyway, so his mother, the swordsman. Anyway, very tragic in the Chinese sense. Oh, my man's throwing hands. Right? Why are you throwing hands with a person with a sword? But I'm just gonna show you an example of it. That's really. I like this scene, like right here, when she kills this foreign devil boxer. And this is big. You see in the Japanese stuff like Saint Seiya, but the Chinese really did this a lot, where you had this picture of a woman doing a technique, snow dragon water play, with an actual dragon showing. Now the dragon's not literally there. The motion is reminiscent of a dragon, right? And she stabs this devil. That's right. Bah. You know. And then like stuff like this, just the action scenes of the footwork, everything. Okay, realistic and this is the most realistic thing here. But I'm just saying in general, it's the suspension of disbelief that you get, but it's cool. All right, it's hard to explain it. It's just like and the hero has to avenge his parents. And man, this Bloodsword too in particular, it had a different art style than the other 3 comics I have mentioned. And the story gets really depressing. Every dude he meets that becomes an ally gets killed eventually. And the villains, even when they get whacked, they usually get killed by somebody else too, which is kind of interesting. A lot of times he doesn't really avenge the guy that did the stuff. That dude gets taken out by some other more powerful guy later. But and of course, this is the 40s Chinese. This is still nationalist China before the Reds take over. But that's right, devil with your gun. Yeah, big nose, big eye, fish-eyed devil. Anyway, and I remember this. You had a cool stickers. The issue I had, which is now lost, they all lost in the flood in '96. Had the cool stickers here, and there's Ghost Server. You don't see him later. Ghost Server. If I'm following the color scheme of the Chinese, okay, obviously the blacks are black, right? The Chinese were this color. The white devils were this color, pink, right? Ghost Server was actually a white man. Okay, he was not Chinese. Later on in the issues after this, you see his origin where he gets his arms cut off, but he's taught ghost kung fu, where he uses the footwork and the kicks because he has no arms. And his face is mutilated, but they put a mask on him, and he has he grows his hair long. That becomes a weapon too. That's what I'm talking about. And then the blood sword, okay, which is, you think the blood sword is the focus of the story, but it's really not, man. The focus of the story is on these characters and this dude. And of course, all my Jademen people know Bloodsword Dynasty, where his son becomes a hero. And who's this? You get one of his buddies here, one of his stalwart allies here is the Lohan, right? The monk. Oh my God. Oh. Yeah, and there you go. More of the fighting, fighting sharks. It's just funny because you have a scene here where they're fighting sharks underwater too. But it's great stuff. And this scumbag, this is what I'm talking about. This is one of those villains that always gets away at the end. Okay, Oriental Heroes is different. Oriental Heroes you have a badass villain, and eventually those two heroes, the duo, will wreck him and kill his ass really badly. But then there's a more powerful guy. So, but yeah, look at that. Look how much stuff you got. Okay, back in the day, man, this was a deal, bro. $1.50, and you got how many pages of comics? Okay, good stuff. Blood Sword, man. And these are the other comics I mentioned: Oriental Heroes, right? Tiger Wong, Gold Dragon, Drunken Fist, right? Remember Invincible Swordsman, and there he is, the man. Force of Buddha's Palm. Yeah, that was good. And then you had a little thing here. So, oh, look at that. Ooh, that's in West Baltimore. Ooh, okay. I guess they're not there anymore, but you know what? Give it up for these comics back in the day. Bro, there was nothing like this, man. And now, even with the stuff you have jamming up the Barnes & Noble, you have nothing like it today, okay? There's something about stuff done in this time period. It has a gravitas. It has the people in it remember the war, okay? They remember hard shit, okay? They're not fast. Look how beautiful that is, that art, painted artwork. So, anyway, enough. Check these out, man. Later.